Our modern world runs on an invisible hum. It is the silent, ever present engine of our daily lives. The smart alarm that wakes us, the streaming news on our commute, the digital tools we use for work, and the apps we use to order dinner. This hum is the cloud, a global network of massive server farms that we rely on for almost everything. We rarely notice it because it's designed to be unnoticeable. It just works until one day it doesn't. On an ordinary Monday, that silent hum stopped. The result was a global digital blackout for several hours. The foundational services that underpin modern society, from social media and entertainment to critical financial and educational platforms, were paralyzed. This wasn't just an inconvenience, it was a sudden, jarring halt to machinery of the 21st century. This essay is an autopsy of that future, a case study that exposes how our digital world has become both unimaginably powerful and dangerously fragile. The failure didn't arrive with a bang, but as a series of quiet errors that quickly snowballed into a global crisis. It was a textbook example of a digital domino effect, showing how a single fault can trigger a worldwide disruption. The first sign of trouble appeared just after midnight on the US West Coast at 3:11 a.m. Eastern Time. Amazon's own health dashboard posted its first alert. Speaking in sterile technical language, we can confirm increased error rates and latencies for multiple AWS services in the US East 1 region. For the engineers who monitor these feeds, such alerts aren't rare. But this was different. The phrase multiple AWS services hinted at a problem that wasn't isolated but was affected the very foundation of the system. Within minutes, the digital world began to break. The failure spread with breathtaking speed. The lists of casualties grew exponentially, cutting across every industry imaginable. First to fall were social media and communication apps. Snapchat, Signal, WhatsApp, Reddit sputtered and died. The platforms themselves weren't broken, but the invisible foundation they stood on had vanished. Simultaneously, the global entertainment and gaming industries went dark. The servers for hugely popular games like Fortnite and Roblox became unreachable, kicking millions of players out of their virtual worlds. Streaming giants, including Amazon's own Prime Video and Disney Plus, stopped working, replaced by a cryptic error message. The financial sector wasn't spared. Payment apps, Venmo, crypto exchanges, Coinbase, and trading platforms Robinhood all reported severe disruptions, preventing users from accessing their money or making trades. Even McDonald's saw its mobile app, a key tool for orders, became unusable. Perhaps most alarmingly, the tools that power the modern workplace were paralyzed. Collaboration platforms such as Slack and design suites like Canva went offline. For countless businesses, the workday stopped before it even began. Though the problem started in a data center in Northern Virginia, the impact was instantly global. Reports flooded in from around the world. In the United Kingdom, customers of major banks couldn't log into their accounts. In Australia, users reported the exact same issues. Outage trackers captured the sheer scale of the event. Down Detector, a site that collects user problem reports, recorded over 11 million reports of service failures across more than 2,500 companies. This wasn't just a series of separate outages, it was a single massive failure. The modern internet, often imagined as a resilient web, was revealed to be like a house of cards. When the foundation card was pulled, everything built on the top of it came crashing down. To understand why the outage was so massive, we have to look at its epicenter. A single AWS location in Northern Virginia, known as US East 1. This is a cluster of data centers, isn't just one part of Amazon's network, it's the heart of the empire, making it a recurring point of failure for the entire internet. In simple terms, the problem was a DNS issue. The domain name system is like the internet's phone book. When you type in Amazon.com into your browser, DNS looks up that name and finds the correct numerical IP address for the server, connecting you to the website. Without a working phone book, your computer can't find anything online, even if the websites themselves are running perfectly fine. Specifically, the address for a critical database service called DynamoDB got lost inside the US East 1 phone book. Think of it like the address for a central post office suddenly being erased from every map in the city. Any application that needed to send or receive data from that post office was suddenly lost, causing a cascade of failures. The ultimate cause was even deeper. The systematic design to monitor the internet's traffic cops, known as load balancer, had failed. It was a failure of the fail-safes. Specifically, the address for a critical database service called DynamoDB got lost inside the US East 1 phone book. Think of it like the address for a central post office suddenly being erased from every map in the city. Any application that needed to send or receive data from that post office was suddenly lost, causing a cascade of failures. The ultimate cause was even deeper. The systematic design to monitor the internet's traffic cops, known as load balancer, had failed. It was a failure of the fail-safes. The reason this one location caused a global crisis is because the US East 1 is special. As AWS' oldest and largest data center region, it's the default choice for many developers. More importantly, it holds many of AWS' own global control planes. Think of it as a centralized brain that manages operations for all other regions around the world. For example, the system that controls user logs and permissions for all of AWS is based in North Virginia. This means that even if a company's website is running in a data center in Tokyo, an outage in US East 1 can prevent them from logging into their management consoles to fix problems. The promise of a distributed fault-tolerant system has a hidden weakness: a centralized brain in Virginia. This isn't a new problem. A series of major failures in December 2021 also originated in US East 1 and exposed the same vulnerability. On December 7, 2021, an outage caused by an overwhelmed network devices in US East 1 took down services like Netflix and Disney Plus, and even halted Amazon's own package delivery network for hours. Just 2 weeks later, on December 22nd, 2021, a simple power outage in a single data center in the US East 1 again caused a cascade of failures for companies like Slack. This pattern shows that US East 1 is a systematic weak point. Its a role as a brain means its failures are never just local, they become global events. This contradicts the core idea of the cloud, which is that regions should be isolated to contain failures. The very place that gave AWS its start has become its greatest and most persistent weakness. The AWS outage wasn't just a technical problem, it was a major economic and social disruption. The sudden shutdown of the cloud sent shockwaves through the global economy, halting business, paralyzing productivity, and interrupting the daily lives of millions. While it's hard to know the exact cost, industry data suggests the damage was enormous. According to one survey, a significant IT outage cost most businesses over $100,000, with many costing over $1 million. When you apply those numbers to the thousands of companies affected by the AWS failure, the total economic damage can be estimated in the billions of dollars. A previous outage in December 2021 provides a clear example. It happened during the peak holiday season and brought Amazon's own delivery operation to a standstill. The apps used by warehouse workers and drivers stopped working, causing packages to pile up and grinding a key part of the global supply chain to a halt. For countless online stores, gaming platforms, and subscription services, every hour of downtime meant millions in lost revenue. Beyond the financial costs, the outage had a huge impact on daily life. In education, learning platforms like Canva went down, preventing students from accessing course materials and teachers from grading assignments. The outage also affected UK government services, showing a clear risk to essential public functions. The incident also served as a stark lesson in the vulnerability of the Internet of Things, the IoT. Amazon's own Alexa voice assistant and Ring smart home cameras were rendered completely useless. Millions of smart homes suddenly went dark as alarm, lights, and security systems became unresponsive. It exposed the reality that these physical devices are entirely dependent on a constant connection to a distant server farm. Finally, such visible failure erodes trust. Major outages damage the reputation of both the cloud provider and companies that rely on it. For everyone, the event shatters the illusion of an infallible digital world, forcing a re-evaluation of the risk of being so dependent on the cloud. This table shows just how widespread the impact was, illustrating how a single failure ripped across the entire digital economy. The original promise of the internet was decentralized network with no single point of failure. The AWS outage shows how far we've strayed from that vision. The modern internet is highly centralized, with its core infrastructure in the hands of a few giant companies. This has created a new and dangerous kind of risk. This is known as a concentrated risk. It's the danger that arises when a critical function is dominated by a small number of players. If one of them falls, the whole system can collapse because there are no real alternatives to absorb the shock. The AWS outage is a perfect example. A glitch at one company didn't just affect its customers, it destabilized a huge portion of the global economy. Regulators are worried. The Bank of England has warned that the function sector reliance on a few cloud providers is a threat to financial stability. They fear an outage could disable multiple banks at once, triggering a wider economic crisis. The cloud computing industry is a classic oligarchy dominated by three American tech giants. The Amazon Web Service is a clear leader, controlling about a third of the global market. The big three, AWS, Microsoft Azure, and Google Cloud together control over 65% of the entire market. It's entirely impossible for new competitors to challenge them. Building a global network of data centers costs tens of billions of dollars. This table presents market concentration among top cloud providers. Amazon Web Services 33% market share in 2021, 2022 33%, 2023 market share 32%. Microsoft Azure market share in 2021 was 23%. In 2022's market share was 23% and stayed at 23% as of now. Google Cloud is 9%, 2022 10%, and 2023 at 11%, while the rest combined to 5%. Market share figures are approximate and based on multiple analysis reports. This creates a too big to fail situation similar to the banks in 2008 financial crisis. A catastrophic failure as AWS harms the entire global economy, but unlike the financial system, there is no central bank for the cloud to step in and help. This risk is made worse by vendor lock-in. Cloud providers make it technically difficult and expensive for customers to switch to a competitor. This traps customers, forcing them to accept their exposure to a single company's failure. The system doesn't just exist, it reinforces itself by making escape difficult. The problem isn't just with AWS. The internet has become a stack of single points of failure. A failure at any one of several concentrated layers, from the servers to the software on your computer, can bring everything to a halt. On June 8th, 2021, a large part of the internet went dark for an hour. Major websites like the New York Times and Reddit became inaccessible. The cause wasn't just their servers, but the failure at Fastly, a major content delivery network, CDN. What is a CDN? A CDN is a network of servers that stores copies of websites closer to users, making them load faster. Root cause A single customer made a routine configuration that triggered a hidden software bug. This bug caused 85% of Fastly's global network to fail. The lesson: the CDN market is also highly concentrated. A bug in one provider's code can take down a huge part of the web, even if the main servers, like those on AWS, are working fine. It revealed another layer of centralized risk. On July 19, 2024, the world experienced what has been called the largest IT outage in history. This time, the cause was a bug in a widely used security software. What is a endpoint security? It is a software like antivirus program that runs on your actual computer. The endpoint to protect it. Root cause: CrowdStrike, a leading cybersecurity firm, sent out a faulty update to its software. The software runs at a deepest level of Windows operation system. The update contained a critical flaw that immediately crashed an estimated 8.5 million computers worldwide, trapping them in a reboot loop. The lesson: the consequences were catastrophic, grounding flights, shutting down banks, and disrupting hospitals with damage estimates in the tens of billions of dollars. This showed that a single flaw line of code in a single security product can brick millions of computers, making the cloud and the internet useless because the device that accesses them won't even turn on. These case studies reveal a dangerous vertical stack of risk. The typical company might use AWS for its servers, the foundation, Fastly to deliver content, the distribution network, and CrowdStrike to protect its competitors, the endpoint. A failure at any one of these concentrated layers can cause a total shutdown. The problem isn't just one single point of failure, it's multiple, overlapping ones that make our entire digital world profoundly fragile. These massive outages are not just random accidents. They are predictable results of an internet that has become too centralized. In response, businesses and the cloud providers are finally starting to reevaluate how they build for resilience. The biggest shift has been the move towards multi-cloud strategies. The idea is simple: don't put all your digital eggs in one basket. By spreading critical work across two or more providers like AWS and Microsoft Azure, companies can avoid a single point of failure. This is quickly becoming a standard, with reports showing that nearly 90% of businesses now use multi-cloud solution. At the same time, AWS and other providers are working to make their own system stronger. AWS has updated its well architecture framework, a set of best practices for building reliable systems, and introducing new tools to help customers manage and automate failover processes. They are also continuing to build more data centers around the world to offer more options for building resilient applications. Despite these efforts, a fundamental tension remains: centralization. For all its risks, offers a huge benefit. It drives down costs, fuels innovation, and makes it easy for startups to build global businesses quickly. These advantages are why the market became so centralized in the first place. The AWS outage, however, is a costly reminder of the price of this convenience. The failure in US East 1 was not an anomaly, but a predictable outcome of how the internet has evolved. It revealed that the invisible infrastructure support our global society is both modern marvel and a dangerous, fragile house of cards. The challenge now is not to abandon the cloud, but to build more intentional and resilient relationships with it. This means businesses must invest in multi-cloud strategies, and the cloud giants must continue to eliminate their own hidden single points of failure. The silence that fell on that day the internet broke was a warning. The critical question is whether we are truly listening.